Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. On this video, I'm going to be looking at December 2020 for the sign of Taurus. Now, if you're used to my videos, you'll know, not that I get technical, but I do like to give things labels so that we know that we're actually looking at something real and it's not all just make-believe. And for that reason, that's why I put up a chart, which I'm going to do now. And one of the reasons I do this is that not only does it give us something to look at, we could see where all the planets are, but it actually reminds me what I need to be talking to you about, which is really important. Now, December is a big month. I mean, 2020 has been a huge year, an unprecedented year for everything that's gone on. And we've had a spectacular set of alignments. And it's ending, it's going out not with a whimper, but with a bang. And the reason for that is this little symbol here, the sun and the moon. And this is a total solar eclipse. And they're always amazing things to look at. And if you're in South Africa or South America, with the aid of a kind of special lens, you may be actually able to see this solar eclipse. And they really are spectacular. That's why the ancients always believed they were portents of great things, sometimes fearsome things. And even today, we astrologers look at eclipses and we know that really important global events happen around the time of an eclipse, but also in our own lives. If that eclipse touches something in our natal charts, then we too will have a singular development. Now, when I look at this total solar eclipse for you, and this is taking place mid-month on the 14th of December, I'm in the area of a great, well, it's one of the most mystical areas of the horoscope. This is what we call the eighth house. It has a lot to do with all sorts of things that are taboo, the things you don't really talk about. Well, in polite society, I mean, we don't talk about money and we don't talk necessarily about sex and things that we feel are a little private. That's all in this area. So you can imagine a total solar eclipse in this area is going to do something major. Now, there are a variety of possibilities here. Money is also in this area, and it's often the relationships you have with people and money. In other words, the relationship between banks and lending institutions and credit card companies, and also business partners and life partners, people you share monetary responsibilities with. So the idea of a total solar eclipse means something different coming here. Now, is this a new partnership, something that's going to be a new financial relationship? Are you going to be striking up agreements, taking out mortgages, but something that's really quite big? This wouldn't be just your average thing. And for a few Taurians, we are looking at inheritances and settlements, whether that's the settlement coming out of a divorce or a redundancy settlement, or maybe coming into money from some kind of source that's not necessarily, the money that you yourself have earned. But of course, there can be many other reasons that this total solar eclipse is present in your life and what it indicates. And certainly we know that in the next 6 months, a new chapter of some description is opening for you. And the 6-month period is important because in 6 months' time, on the 26th of May, 2021, there'll be a total lunar eclipse, which is a kind of matching set. We've got a matching set. So the months between the total solar eclipse and the total lunar eclipse, there will be events that really amount to opening some kind of new direction for you. It could be a new work direction. We could be back in the area of finances again, which of course would make it work. But also relationships are in here. Whenever I look at eclipses, I know that there's a person in there. And often the meaning of the eclipse is brought to us by another human being. In other words, we may meet somebody and the effect of that meeting is to open a new pathway. We may meet that person and that will change our lives, whether we fall in love with them or we form a business relationship with them, or they become some kind of teacher and open up all sorts of new possibilities of the mind, if you like. it can be a variety of reasons, but we're along those lines really when we think about opening up new chapters and people being involved in that. And the interesting thing is that at the time of this total solar eclipse, Venus is in the house of relationships, just poised to leave, in fact. So it may be that the preceding 3 or 4 weeks, which brings us into the middle of November, there has been an important development in a relationship. It can be a working relationship, it can be a romantic relationship. So there is a history here. It's not necessarily something coming out of the blue so much as something now in response to what happened maybe a month before that time. I do think with total solar eclipses, whatever comes into the arena, and doesn't always come on the day, it can come after that time. As you can see, we're looking at a 6-month window here. It's big and bright, it's obvious, and really we have no choice other than to go forward. And when I think about you, Taurus, you are a very cautious sign. You love the familiar, you don't like sudden change, and the idea of this eclipse is that if a new opportunity comes to you or things change beyond comprehension, you can't go back. You have to go forward. It's a really big and important message. Now, another really important period of December for you is the 17th and the 19th, because on these days, Saturn moves into Aquarius, Jupiter moves into Aquarius, and the moon accompanies them there. Now, Saturn is going to remain in this all-important area of your chart for the next 2 years plus, and Jupiter is going to be there most of next year. And this is the area of life direction. So over the course of the next year, again, we're talking about opportunities to increase and expand your life. Now, this may come in material terms, so you'll make more money, you'll have more options, but I think also it's about big ideas. You know, sometimes we have to set the bar high. Sometimes we have to exceed our expectations in order to get anywhere. And with Jupiter in this area of the horoscope, you are urged to go forward and to do things big. Now, Saturn's there as well for a longer period, and it says whatever you do big, you're going to have to build and construct, and you're going to have to be determined about, because there will be obstacles. But then who got anywhere in life without an obstacle or two? But I do like the fact that on the 17th, the moon in Aquarius ushers Saturn and Jupiter into this space in your solar horoscope. And I think it almost says it's time to get into the headspace of Aquarius. And that really does mean progressive thought, being a little bit of a revolutionary, rocking the boat a little bit, changing it up, going into a new century with some new kind of, well, I know it's not a new century, it's sort of part of the next decade, but in terms of the new age of Aquarius, it's quite a big thing. And I'm going to be talking about that on your year ahead. But still, the idea of, you know, stretching the envelope is really important at this point. Now, I will mention Neptune as well, because we can't leave this planet out of things. It's not in a terribly central place in your horoscope. It's not your ruling planet. It's nothing like that, but it is active in the first half of December. And the only thing I want to say about this is that you can't believe everything you see, and you can't believe everything you hear. So if somebody tells you something and it strikes you as, that's a bit odd, check it out, because it's probably not true. And on the other hand, if something absolutely wonderful is dangled in front of you, it may be true, but what you really want to know is it true? So be very circumspect and don't be afraid to ask questions and check things out, because you could make a little bit of a slip if you don't follow things through. Very unlike you, Taurus is a very cautious and a sign full of common sense. But even you could get led astray with Neptune. And goodness knows what's going to be happening out there on the world stage. We're going to be in the woods here with Neptune. Now, as we go a little bit further on, Mars has been in the 12th house here for about 6 months. And the 12th house is what I call the powerhouse of the zodiac, because so much gets seeded in the unconscious here and so much gets prepared. So it may have seemed as though you're not really making very much progress, or that certain situations in your life really aren't going anywhere. But wait until Mars enters Taurus, which it will do in January, and you'll start to see some of those things beginning to take off, and perhaps quite suddenly and unexpectedly. So while we're looking at, well, that was nice of my little chart, wasn't it, to sort of disappear on me like that. Let's make it big again so we can see it. Right, so the reason I'm bringing Mars up is that it has been angling Pluto and Saturn up here in the ninth house of your horoscope for the past year. And it has been the reason you may have felt you didn't get very far with things. And certainly when it comes to things of a far horizon nature, which can be travel and distant places and people at a distance from you, the coronavirus has put pay to a lot of travel and a lot of things have changed. So that's part of that Mars obstruction here in the 12th house with Pluto and Saturn here. And why I'm mentioning it is that on the 23rd of December, Mars angles Pluto for the very, very last time. So there's something about a final push for something here. But what I'm also interested in is it happens just before Christmas. And sometimes when we think about wanting to really do something in a really big style, if we haven't done enough preparation for it, we get caught out by the season. In other words, the banks close. In other words, the buses and trains stop. And so instead of being able to do something that we really want to do, we're stopped because of the season. So I would advise you, if you want to do something big and spectacular, whether it's to talk to somebody about an idea you've got, whether it's to make a proposal of some description, or maybe it's that you want to tell somebody, finally, look, I'm done. I've gone as far as this will go. Then do it before we get that close to Christmas Eve, because it's a little bit too hot to handle and we want plenty of time for things to work out. What I would also say is, again, coming at Christmas Eve, even if the Christmas celebrations are a little bit limited this year, if you've probably got some kind of celebration on your hands, even with a couple of people in your family box, it's possible that something goes wrong, like a power cut or something like that. So have a good backup plan. If festivities include food and other entertainment, you may need to find other sources of heat, perhaps in every sense of the phrase. Finally, last thing that happens on our December list is the full moon in Cancer, the sun in Capricorn, the moon in Cancer, and that's on the 30th. I think there's an important conversation here, an important message, an important understanding reached towards the end of the month. Again, there's a lot of Taurians out there, so that understanding is going to be made in different ways. One of the things about a full moon is that theme of closure and completion. In other words, conclusions. And you can make a conclusion by saying, oh, I reached this understanding, or you can end something. So one way or another, around this time, on the 30th or the 31st, reaching a conclusion of some description is on the agenda. So I'll come back. Full picture. And thank you for watching. And I hope you've got a really good idea of what December has to offer. And what I really, really hope is that I remove fear. Because a lot of people find astrology a little spooky. They're a little bit worried about it all being written and there's nothing you can do if something's coming at you. But I think even with a total solar eclipse, which is a fairly powerful entity, you know, there's always something that you're going to bring to that event, and having a heads up like that puts you in the right headspace. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next month on my next monthly and on my twice monthly videos, which follow the new moon and the full moon cycle. Bye for now.